you need to listen to the people, you need to listen to the business, but also listen to the cyber people, and also to bring all these people together in the same room so that we can discuss and see what is the risk, what is possibilities, and are we able to take it, instead of the cyber people sitting in a closed room and said no, or the business just go out and buy it without even asking. So you have to listen to people. We need to invite them to have a discussion together.
The key thing is our cyber security culture that we need to nourish within the company. It comes from data protection. I work closely with our data protection officer and educating our staff, ensuring that they have the resources that they need, that they have the knowledge and training to navigate with different clients, because every client is a new journey. Apart from us looking at clients' technology, security technology, we always ensure that we have a continuous training.
Hello, Stefan. Thank you for joining the podcast. Hi, Morgan. Thank you so much for joining the Fearless podcast. I'm super excited for our conversation, what we are here to talk about. We know that Grant Thornton is such a global organization, so it's not enough to look at one office. So to really understand the scope of the organization is good to look at different locations. And before we had this amazing conversation with Sabika from Luxembourg. So now we're going up north to Sweden. So Morgan is CIO and Stefan is a CISO at Grant Thornton, Sweden.
Correct.
So maybe to kick things off, maybe a quick introduction to our audience. What are your roles, responsibilities at Grant Thornton, and how did you get where you are today? Maybe we can start with you, Morgan.
Thank you, Alessandra, and thank you to inviting us to be part of your podcast. So my name is Morgan Svensson, and I'm the CEO at Grant Thornton, Sweden. I've been at Grant Thornton for almost 8 years. How I ended up in the tech business, I think I chose that part at the university, and when I been working for a major airline in the Scandinavian, and after that I was working in the IT consultant business before I actually started to join some other professional service companies in Sweden, and after a while I ended up at Grant Thornton.
Okay. That's quite a journey. What about you, Stefan? How did you end up where you are today?
Yeah, one can wonder, how did I end up in this role? Well, it's a fun fact that Morgan and I used to work at the same airline company a couple of years ago back. We didn't know each other then, but we had a discussion last week, I think, when we found out that we had actually been working in the same building lots of years ago.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But
and you never bumped into each other?
No. I would have remembered. But, well, I have my previous assignments has been in roles like a service delivery manager for French outsourcing companies, Atos and Styria, and I've also been an infrastructure manager for an engineering company called Sweco in Sweden before I ended up with Morgan. So I think I've been with Grant Thornton for almost as many years as Morgan. I think you joined 1 year earlier than me. And I have the role as a CISO at Grant Thornton, Sweden.
I think it really speaks about the culture of organization when people want to stick around for longer, because, security is such a role where, there are a lot of new fields and things that appear. So when you choose to stay somewhere for quite some time, it speaks like that it's actually a fun experience. How's the CIO-CISO relationship evolved at Grant Thornton over the past years, especially as you've grown into this role?
I can start with that one and say that when I started here, we didn't have a person who had actually the CISO responsibility. So actually, it's something that has grown during the years. I think when Stefan started, we had a lot of things to do in the cyber. So actually we focus on actually to get the things in place. And after that, we hired Stefan. He solved everything, and all the protection that we needed, all the fences we need to build up around our data and everything. And when Stefan became the CISO also.
And what about you, Stefan?
Yeah, I would say that in the beginning, it was a lot of operational IT security stuff, making sure that we had the protection and all the solutions in place, and also that they were monitored actively by our internal security staff, and also to build the internal security staff team from the operations team. And I think over time, starting as an information security specialist, now as CISO, if we look in a broader perspective, we have also gone from a sort of internally Sweden point of view to now talking to various member firms within Grant Thornton. So we have now a cooperation, what we call Euro IT, and there's a subgroup there called cybersecurity, and that's really interesting. So I think we have grown and matured a lot within the cybersecurity networking area. So I'm very pleased with the operation.
And this is how we trying to help all the members from trying to help each other. As your previous podcast, you had Sabika. She's the CISO of Luxembourg, and she's part of the European cybersecurity subgroup together with Stefan. We have other member firms, CISO, also part of it, and we are working very, very closely together. And we didn't do that for 10 years ago or 8-9 years ago. So it's something that's grown a lot in the last 5-6 years.
Wow. That's amazing to have such a interconnected community within the company where, as new threats appear or new technologies appear, this knowledge sharing is so fundamental for the company's growth. And it's just so amazing to see. But I can't help but to think that oftentimes when you want to adopt new technology, there are certain risks associated with it, right? And I imagine, Morgan, from your position, you might be thinking, okay, there is a new tech coming in. And then from Stefan's position, okay, how do we make sure it's secure? Does it happen frequently, like those kind of conversations as you're looking into a new tech?
Has never happened. No. Of course, that's a challenge. We have a business that they want to be ahead with the technology. They want to be efficient in the day-to-day work, to be efficient, use all the tools that help them. We don't only have the cyber, but we have also the risk part, etc. So it's what we call it. It's sometimes walking on a very, very thin line, trying to navigate. So what is right, what is wrong. So we want to give the new technology, the newest solution to our staff without any taking too huge risk or expose ourselves from a cyber perspective. So it's a dialogue that Stefan and I have together, but also with our risk and compliance department.
And Stefan, from your perspective, as so many consultants focus on, meeting client requirements and client deadlines, how do you ensure that security is still an important topic of conversation?
Well, I would say that the key thing is our cyber security culture that we need to nourish within the company. It comes from data protection. I work closely with our data protection officer and educating our staff, ensuring that they have the resources that they need, that they have the knowledge and training to navigate with different clients, because every client is a new journey. Apart from us looking at clients' technology, security technology, we always ensure that we have a continuous training. For instance, we usually during high season, we send out these small nano-learning lessons. They're sent by email, just to ensure that, okay, do you remember the incident reporting routine? Do you remember the risk reporting and stuff like that? And ensure that they have knowledge how to report and when to report. And also to catch things from our clients, because sometimes we need to support our clients when we see that, okay, you're actually missing out a vital part in your cybersecurity posture. And by that, then we can educate them as well and support them. I think that's the key. But also to be really close to the business and ensure that they can contact us whenever they need. Ensure that we have solid communication channels. That's the main key for us.
When you're looking, like when many people within the organization are looking to adopt new productivity tools, AI tools, how do you as a CISO weigh the security risks, especially around AI data leakage, while also supporting the CIO goals for innovation and efficiency?
Well, I would say that the easy way would just be to block, but our strategy is not to never say no, but to say yes, but ensure that all the employees or whoever wants to use it have the guardrails in place for a secure usage of that AI solution. But of course, in the back end, we monitor how the usage is within the company by employees. And of course, you have some AI tools that are by the beginning red flagged. And by that, we can say, okay, this is not allowed, then we can block it. But we want to educate and ensure that we have a shared responsibility for the cybersecurity within the company. So they should know how to use these. And by that, we have an instruction for the usage of AI tools. And as for now, due to Swedish legislation, we're not allowed to use any confidential information. We're just allowed to use public and internal information. But of course, we're looking into how can we leverage these AI tools to support our clients in a better way. But it's a step-by-step, and it's a continuous journey to ensure that we weigh in risk and benefits from these tools.
Definitely correct me if I'm wrong here, but you both mentioned it regarding the Swedish regulations and so on. At the moment, the Swedish regulations and the laws from an audit and accounting perspective, they are the one actually who is blocking before we even need to reach the critical part from a cybersecurity perspective.
That's interesting input. So it's like this Swedish government first imposes it, and then you second step when it comes to it?
The laws at the moment or the regulations are setting the rules before even, they probably say no because how the laws are written and constructed before even we need to actually go to the cybersecurity perspective. Say, okay, what is a cyber risk? No, actually the audit laws and accounting laws says, no, you can't do this. So actually we don't end up to having take the next step and look, okay, where is the cyber risk? Because the laws are already blocking it as they are written as today. But maybe, hopefully in the future, they will change them. Then there will probably be more discussion between the CISO, and the risk and compliance, the business, and of course, I will also be involved in that one as the CEO.
Yeah. And how do you handle situation where, for example, Stefan's team says we need to block this, but employees saying we need to do this to our job?
And back again, that this is a very thin line to walk. We want to have our business as efficient as possible. We want to give our colleagues the best tools so they can do the best job for our clients. But we also need to remember the cyber risk. What is the risk? It's always an ongoing discussion. Can we do this? Can we not do this? What is the risk? We have to involve our risk and compliance department. Sometimes we need to talk to our legal department to see, and also to evaluate, is this a risk that we could take? Is this a risk we actually know it's too big risk? It's we can't do this. So it's a conversation we're having. We do risk assessment, risk workshops, and in the end we come out to can we do it or not. But it's not only a discussion between Stefan and I, it's discussion with many other people.
Yeah. And do you see it to be the case for other geographies as well, that, there is such a close cooperation right now with other European states within the Grant Thornton? Do you see them generally following the same principles and rules, or do you see some differences?
For sure, it can be some differences due to culture, like business culture. But we have, if you look upon the Euro IT group, we have a really open climate, and we can discuss this without being ashamed for not knowing stuff and stuff. And I think that's one of the key things, that if you have an open climate and you ensure that you take everyone's views in consideration, then you can at least move ahead in a solid way.
Yeah. What are some cultural things that you think like really stand out in Sweden versus other geographies that you're like, this is only us that do it this way?
Well, I will point out in a specific country, but I expect some CISO wouldn't make jokes on the CIO's behalf, for instance.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
the chain of commands can be quite strict in some countries. Means that can be some barriers between cooperation between the CIO and the CISO.
Okay. I guess in your sense, you're open to make jokes about Morgan.
No, but
Every day.
It's the opposite way.
No, but we have. I think that's something we have in the Nordic or the Scandinavian, that we have a quite open work climates. There, of course, is a hierarchy, but not in the day-to-day work. We don't see that as this. Okay, here's a line manager, and so on. We're having more an open discussion, open dialogue, where every person brings their knowledge, their experience, their view of the things we're going to discuss or the things we're going to solve. And it's not like, because I'm the CIO, I'm the one who's saying this is right, this is wrong. No, it's a discussion between everyone. And I can see that, as Stefan mentioned, when we meet other colleagues, both in Europe, but also in other countries where they have very strict, and this is not only in Grand Thornton, this is in general. So there is a very strict hierarchy that, okay, this is the line manager, you don't go against the line manager, and so on. And we can, that's a challenge, because when you don't bring out the best of everyone.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I think, especially in this field where a lot of discoveries about new threats happen, even junior managers going about and testing some things, this is how it really can help to escalate to the senior level and say, hey, this is the thing that we should be more concerned about. So having that kind of open culture is certainly an advantage, whichever organization you're part of. But what if something like Grand Thornton is so large? Is there a part that you feel like you're missing sometimes if you were working, let's say, in a small organization?
So, yes, Grand Thornton, we are a very big network. It means that every country, or as we say, member firm, we are independent, or what do you call it? So we don't act as a global corporation. So, for example, Grand Thornton Sweden, we have certain, we share the brand with all other Grand Thornton member firms. We have some cyber, we call it controls that we need to follow. There are also many other controls we need to follow. But there's no one that's telling Stefan, you have to buy this cyber product. There are some few, but mostly we actually can choose our own cyber products that we want to use and implement. Good or bad, that means also that Stefan needs to actually be on his toes to check what's happening on the market, what are the new threats coming, what defense we need to have in place to be protected on these new threats. If we were a global corporation, it would be easier to lean back. Okay, this is a global problem, so someone from the global level will solve this. No, now Stefan needs to solve this. Stefan needs to secure that we have everything in place to protect Grand Thornton Sweden. And also in discussion with the rest of the CISOs in other member firms, especially in Europe, as Stefan mentioned before, that we talk together. What is the next tool we should bring in? What are the experience? We do some proof of concept together. We are looking into some things like that.
Yeah, I think, Stefan, you have so many responsibilities on your shoulders, making sure that everything is up to date. Does it bring any sort of healthy competition within the Grant Thornton network, who has the most beautiful security stack out there and who has everything in place. I just imagine if I were a CISO, that's probably something I would play around with.
Well, we do have a global information security framework that helps me a lot. It's a well-developed framework based on the NIST framework. So that gives me a lot of controls to be compliant with, and that's really helpful. But in addition, we have also security professionals. We have a managed detect and response service from our colleagues in the UK, also with the Cyber Defense Center with security professionals. Me alone wouldn't work, so I have an umbrella of security professionals, both in the internal security team, but also in the external ones. And in addition, my colleagues within the member firms, the CISO. So I also have guardrails to be compliant with. So I think it's the joint work, the cooperation, building the network, supporting each other. That's very important for me as a CISO. I would not be able to do this by myself. Then I would.
Yeah, that's extremely crucial. That's extremely crucial nowadays. And after the most recent conferences, and with AI overtaking, so many cyber criminals out there, we also like to say that browser becomes the new endpoint, with employees spending so much time of their working day there, like with SaaS apps and everything else in between. How has this informed both your security and infrastructure strategy when it comes to responding threats that originate there?
Well, it has been for a couple of years back. We've seen this coming. So this is actually something that we work very actively with to see what's behind the next corner. For sure, see that this is a very important topic for us to understand and have a look into, to ensure that we have a solid understanding on what's to come and how we can mitigate the threats that are out there, because we have a cloud first but not only strategy. That means that we will have to move our security borders from the old server rooms out there to the cloud service. So we are very actively looking how should we incorporate this in our IT security strategy.
Yeah, and that is one very important part. How do we, as you said, become cloud first and then secure everything that's going on there? What kind of threats do you think that become so prominent that other CISOs should pay closer attention to? I hear a lot of conversations around extensions, around malicious redirects. Is there a certain attack that you saw out there and you thought, okay, this one people should pay closer attention to?
Well, I think that we are building the map now. I'm bringing in all the experts that we have, either if they are internal or external ones, and try to sort of build the map and how should we navigate. And the things that you mentioned are included in that map. For now, it's an area that we know is upcoming or has been upcoming for some time. And we now need to build that map and to build that thorough understanding. What are the potential threats and how should we mitigate them?
I'm very curious when it comes to decision-making and the dynamic of CISO and CIO. How does the process typically look when evaluating new security solutions or vendors? How is the discussion going when a lot of people are asking, what is the best way to talk to senior leaders? What do you saw something that is working the best among you two?
Regarding the budget or...
Yeah, when it comes to not even necessarily the budget, but evaluation, what's something that really stands out to you and makes you think yes?
First of all, I think normally is a need that Stefan sees that this is something we need to implement or we need to protect us against this. When we do an evaluation, and of course, from my view, the cost perspective is quite important.
Yeah.
From Stefan's view, maybe it's not so important. It is more looking at the capabilities. So, of course, there is a balance, but I think we always ends up in a good agreement. Actually, this is a supplier. We prefer to work with suppliers that are not only national, actually they are at least regional, and we're talking a region for as Europe. When we know also that maybe this could be something interesting for our colleagues in Europe and then also in the Middle East, maybe.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think for you, Stefan, I was just speaking, I was interviewing another CISO recently, and he mentioned this point where right now his job is not only to understand threats, but also understand P&L, cash flow, and everything to make sure all of this is taken into consideration. With so many threats coming out and so many I don't want to say budgetary restraints, but still them being present. What do you suggest to other CISOs that potentially are looking to evaluate something? What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, to connect the risk to understand the business and then correlate those risks that you see yourself and try to make good examples on how to describe what will happen if the risk becomes real. If you have an incident, for instance, to have solid examples. Both Morgan and I worked with, we had a successful phishing attempt that we needed to investigate. We didn't lose any information, but still it was a huge sum of cash that we spent on just understanding the potential impact or what the impact was. And going back when we tried to purchase a new product for email security, we looked upon how many users click on our phishing tests. And then you can see, okay, one click can potentially generate this cost. And by that, we had the audience attendance directly. Then they can see, okay, this is actually a really big potential threat. And then, of course, describing the solution itself and how we should manage it. But I think it's also extremely important when you talk about technology. I mean, the technology is there are good solutions, but someone needs to manage it. You need some professional behind the monitor, the dashboard, that can draw some intelligent conclusions and also to recommend solutions to us. That's why we have involved our colleagues in the UK, the Cyber Defense Center. And with them, we have a constant dialogue, like looking at new IOCs, how can we implement them? And these are recommendations that are coming from them because they understand our business. I'm not that technological driven, but I also usually ask, okay, how many full-time employees do we need to hire in order to make the best out of your technical solutions? And sad to say, often that's you don't get a direct question back on that one. But I think that's one thing that you should have in mind when you're looking at technology or vendors, for instance. How is the education of those people? How are they skilled? And how does your training program look over time?
Yeah, this is a very great suggestion. And I know it's a little bit difficult to exactly quantify how many people exactly would it take to manage a particular solution. I mean, that would be ideal world, ideal scenario, because also every person has different capabilities, different knowledge base, different pockets. But if we could map out that world with ideal scenario, that would be easiest. And whoever chooses to procure a certain solution, it also would make your conversation with Morgan a lot easier. He will be like, yeah, this costs this much. I need X amount of people. And Morgan is like, thumbs up. The solutions could be a lot simpler. Working in Nordics, I'm sure, comes with a different set of regulations, especially in terms of data protection. Could you share more about the unique regulatory environment you face when it means in practice?
Yeah, I don't know, Stefan, maybe this, but we have the data protection part in Sweden. I think that's almost the same in most of the Nordic countries. The GDPR part is quite strong, and the data protection there and the personal integrity. I don't have so much experience, so I can compare it to Denmark, Finland, and Norway. I know that Germany also have quite strong data protection and data integrity rules. Yeah, but it's a challenge, as we mentioned earlier. At the moment, actually, this is the regulation laws to set the boundaries, actually what we can do or not can do. It's not often ends up to be a discussion between Stefan and I regarding the cyber risks.
Comes also back to cooperation. I mean, the EU supplies with new regulations, and you need to understand them and have a focus. Okay, what does this mean to our business? We have the Digital Operational Resiliency Act, a bunch of new regulations that come in a steady pace. And it's more like having the process, okay, how should we evaluate if we're hit by these ones or not? And also to supply our clients with information if we are hit by that regulation or not. And what we base our statement on, like security white papers. This is how we do our cybersecurity, and we believe that we are not hit by, for instance, DORA. Or at least not yet. But I mean, in the coming years, like 1 or 2 years ahead, we probably will be. And we will need to have our process up and running to deal with these new regulations. But I have an example. You asked earlier about an example of the worst thing that we see. I think I have a quite good example of when you have sort of a bad cybersecurity culture and the users are not aware. This was not a GT, but we had an employee that clicked on a bad link, and we asked, why did you click on that one? And he said, well, I would never have clicked on that bad link on my private PC at home. I would never have done it. But I mean, this is my corporate laptop, and don't we have security solution in place that take care of this? And it's like, okay, that's a bad decision, because he actually knew that this could be something bad. But still, it was a good measurement on the level of knowledge at that specific user, and could be, okay, let's have a look at the education, training, lessons. I think that our strategy for using small lessons sent out by email during high season or at perhaps a lower frequency over the year has shown good results.
Yeah, I mean, of course, security education is so instrumental, and no matter how many sophisticated tools you have in place, that's the part that is so instrumental to security posture of any company, is how security aware employees are, because technology is evolving so fast. But then at the end of the day, you also want to be in a scenario that, let's say, if this employee would try to do something malicious, because if we are talking like here, he is being attacked by someone, but there are also a lot of cases where employees try to exfiltrate data from their organization. And in that case, it's the same sort of culture problem where they try to do something bad to organization, knowing that it actually can do something bad. So that's a whole new challenge.
Yeah, you have risk on both sides, so you need to be prepared and also have the tools and the capabilities actually to protect both from internal and external threats. So it's a challenge everywhere.
And especially with generative AI, where everyone right now summarizes their emails by asking them to rewrite without omitting any sensitive information, that becomes a real big challenge. And attackers can use prompt injections and just take this all information out. I'm curious, Morgan, what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone making the transition from consulting to leadership, just like you did?
The advice that you would give to someone is that you need to listen to the people, you need to listen to the business, but also listen to the cyber people, and also to bring all these people together in the same room so that we can discuss and see what is the risk, what is possibilities, and are we able to take it, instead of the cyber people sitting in a closed room and said no, or the business just go out and buy it without even asking us. So you have to listen to people. We need to invite them to have a discussion together. That's the thing.
That's very important, and that's so instrumental to companies. And Stefan, tell us about the biggest technology bet you've made. Doesn't matter if it is at Grant Thornton or not, and what lessons you learned that you could pass on to other CISOs.
I think that the biggest one in a previous assignment in the beginning of the Security Operations Center services area. It was quite blurry on what it actually meant. It was quite hard to see the service, how it could evolve over time with specific use cases that were to be produced by that SOC. Didn't work out that well, but I think when I came to Grant Thornton, the biggest one was that we decided we should have a solid SOC, and we did quite a good benchmark, and we came up with the UK team. And I think that's a really big benefit for us to have an active SOC that monitors our environment 24/7 all year round, but also to have these security professionals in the Cybersecurity Defense Center that we can cooperate with, ask them for advice. We have not only when we have incidents, but also if we are looking at new technologies or if we have something that, okay, have you seen this before? And also using the GT part of it, they already understand our line of business. That means that they don't need to ask us much questions about how do you do your business, what's relevant or not. They already know that. And that has been a really successful story, I would say. That makes me sleep a lot better at night, at least. So that's one of the advice I would say. Build your umbrella of security professionals, being if it's vendors or it's internal security team, but ensure that you have a solid staff that you can ask. And the more people that are out there looking at new solutions or picking up new advice or things that has happened, the better it is. And ensure that you have an open climate where you can discuss it, that everyone can speak there with their own voice and come up with solutions, then just work themselves.
But also this go back to the question we discussed earlier. Okay, do we need, for every new tool we bring in, do we need to hire people to monitor it? So this is, okay, my view of this is, okay, we can't hire more people every time we bring a new solution, new tool that we need to have. So what I want to do, and also hope for all the SOC solution services around the world, that they need to be on the toes. They need to be able to see what are the new solutions coming, but also be able to offer the client monitoring, surveillance services for each new tool. For example, we have a lot of tools from Microsoft, of course, like everyone else has. Of course, I want our SOC to monitor all the cyber product we buy from Microsoft. Sometimes they say, no, we're not specialists this one. So then I need to find other people who can monitor it, or Stefan and his team has to do it. But the thing is, Stefan and his team, they're not working 24/7. And I say we can't really. So we need a support, we need a help from all the SOC service suppliers around the world to be able to see, okay, we need to support our clients to monitor and survey, and also take actions when the new cyber tools warns you, tells you here's a threat, here's a risk, etc.
Mm-hmm. This is really talking about that proactive approach where you build a relationship whoever you're working with. You understand what are their needs, what are their requirements, you understand the environment, and then suggest something accordingly. But also going back to the question is, I'm sure a lot of cybersecurity professionals, they wonder, why do I only see value of a certain product only after POC? Because it requires a lot of processes, it requires a lot of human power, so much time, and then you might not necessarily see the value. So right now, I think this is the point of time where the conversation just shifts 180 degrees, and it's all about how do you provide value, how do you provide the research to the team before something happens, how can you provide this before the sale happens. And I think right now there are a lot of great conversations and great teams where the SOC teams, vendors that reposition this conversation to how can I help before they actually sign anything. And this is hopefully where the industry is headed. We have this little tradition, Morgan and Stefan, on our podcast, where typically our previous guest would ask question to the next guest. So our previous guest adds the following question to you. So we can start maybe with you, Stefan. So you're a CISO right now. What do you think is the next step for you? There are so many directions that you could go to, and this is not necessarily for Morgan case, but what do you think? What is the next step?
Well, the next step is for me to educate myself more, to get more understanding. I mean, this is a huge area, and I'm looking at how should we train our staff? How should we ensure that it's built in their minds, looking at the cybersecurity? I think that it's really helpful nowadays when you have the AI era coming. I mean, AI is constantly discussed in media. It's more like, is there anything else that I could educate myself in, being a better teacher? Or are there other things that I can add to my profile that can help me in this role?
That is great. What about you, Morgan?
If you look at my role here now at Thornton, Sweden, I think is continue to improve and also to continue to help the business to get more efficient, get able to use more of the new technology coming to compatible on the market, because our competitors will start to use all the new tools, but also that we're going to do in a way that we have control of the data, control our information, and we know what the risks are. So yeah, I think continue that journey that we already started and see. The thing is, everything is so happening so fast at the moment. So it's something new, almost something new that you need to look into every day. That's the beauty of it at the moment, to working in IT and the cybersecurity part. You never know what comes tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And what about on a personal front? Are you learning any European languages or anything that excites you right now?
For me, I just finished an executive MBA at Stockholm University. So I finished in June this year. So I just started to recover for that one. So I'm not there yet what the next step could be. But of course, everyone needs to learn new things every day. It doesn't matter what. So yeah, I just try to catch up the breath.
Yeah, I was going to say, please take time to breathe, take breathing moments. And what about you, Stefan? What are the personal milestones, goals you have?
To stay young and healthy, the young part. But just, being a CISO can be quite stressful, and I think that it's very easy to sort of hit the wall, and I need to train and stay healthy. That's my personal goal.
That's a great goal. That's great goal to have. What question would you like to ask to our next guest?
Stefan, this is for you.
Well, it's more related to what I'm looking at. Is there any other competencies that you can see could be of benefit for a CISO in his team? I mean, not just IT and security nerds. Could you, for instance, benefit from having someone who's really skilled in education? Bring in a teacher, for instance, a full-time teacher. You need to teach the employees IT security stuff. And how can you measure the improvement of that? Other skills from other areas outside of IT.
Okay, I got it. What are some of the skills that can help you enhance your position and make it easier for someone to understand what you're trying to achieve and help the rest of the
help us to achieve that cybersecurity culture within the company, make it solid? Yeah.
Great question. I'm sure there are so many areas that you can constantly learn from. Morgan probably knows that after his MBA. This was such a great conversation. I enjoyed it so much, and I'm sure our audience is going to absolutely love it. We talked about what is CISO, what is CIO, how do you both work together. What took me by surprise, not many instances where you're not aligned, because I guess when you work in one company and try to achieve the same goal, there aren't that many misalignments. podcasts. We talked about what are the biggest threats out there and how you go about dealing with them, whether from technology perspective, regulatory perspective. And I think one thing that I specifically learned about Grant Thornton is that it's such an open, not hierarchical community where you can always learn, whether from other geographies or from your peers. And in today's world, it's absolutely instrumental if you want to be very responsive to new threats that are coming out. So I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure our audience is going to love it. So thank you so much, Stefan. Thank you so much, Morgan, for
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra.